Guys, what's up? Welcome to, I think this is episode 13 or 14 of Pickpocket Bets. There was a large gap in me uploading, so I apologize for that. I've just been busy with work and stuff, but I have a new co-host now joining me, my friend Evan. So we will be doing this podcast together from now on. Evan, if you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Evan. I've known Josh for a while, and we've been talking about sports betting for a pretty long time, and used to play esports professionally. We've been a long time NBA fans, although Josh is a big LeBron fan. But yeah, I'm excited to be a part of the show.
So I guess just like a general overview, it's been a really long time since the last episode, so I'm not going to go through like a month's worth of bets, but I've still been betting on the side and stuff without doing the podcast. Had a little bit of a cold streak. I remember I was talking on my podcast about when I was going to Vegas for Wild Card Weekend. I lost I don't know, $500 or $700 there, so it went really badly. And one of the things too about this podcast, which I kind of have disclosed on the earlier episodes, but always got to talk about it, is as much as we're giving you advice on what we think is smart or what is a good bet to make, it is your money at the end of the day, and there's always nothing is guaranteed in sports betting. As much as we can sit here and go through all the analytics and tell you what's good and what's not, so. We'll give you suggestions on what we think is good, but at the end of the day, it's your guys' money. Be smart with it. We're not going to put a whole gambling addiction thing up, but yeah, just make sure you know what you're doing, and don't bet. Only bet what you can afford to lose. Don't bet more than you can lose. I used to I don't think it's not really worth it for me to hold my phone up to the screen. I did that a couple times, but I got really lucky. I think it was last weekend. I made I hit $2,000 parlays, so I made $2,000, and then that basically made up for about a month and a half, 2 months worth of losses. So I'm in a pretty good spot right now, which I'm glad. But I think I'm not going to go super far into all my bets in the history in the last month. Let's just kind of go into what's happening now. So for right now, the MLB just started, so I don't think we're really going to touch too much on that because it's such a long season and that type of thing. So we're going to focus today on NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and the NFL draft, and then we'll have a few segments at the end too. I think let's just start off with the NFL draft. Evan, I guess what are you thinking about this draft? Because I would be surprised if there's 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 5 picks, and it's kind of looking like that might happen.
Yeah, well, I actually heard this on a podcast not too long ago that they've only ever had 3 quarterbacks go in the top 3, I think, ever, consecutively. So, yeah, the odds of, 4 quarterbacks going off the board or 5 quarterbacks going off the board to start off with is really unlikely. But yeah, I guess I wanted to dive in a little bit more into, who is expected to go in the top couple of picks. Because right now, Bryce Young is the odds-on favorite to go number 1 overall, but that wasn't guaranteed, when the Panthers traded up for the number 1 overall pick. It was originally CJ Stroud, but they've slowly taken his odds down. He's now plus 1,000, and Bryce Young is minus 2,000. What do you think about that?
So I guess my only answer to that is I saw some stuff on Twitter about how all these quarterbacks had to take this, not like a cognition test, but they had to take a test that basically you're taking an ACT for the NFL. It's let's see how well you can think through stuff and make decisions based off progressions. And apparently Anthony Richardson was off the charts with it, extremely smart, scored super high. Apparently Bryce Young, who is now supposed to be the number 1 pick, obviously by favorites wise, also was scored insanely well on that. So I think some of the movement of these picks is I think it's going off that because apparently CJ Stroud's was a 20% and he scored 25% lower than anyone else. So I don't know if that. I'm not saying CJ Stroud is like incapable of playing football, but when you're playing at wide receiver, I don't think there's a lot of thoughts going on in his head. I think he's just like, fuck it, he's down there somewhere, which is like the same way I feel about Tua, if I'm being honest. So I think that Bryce Young actually was like one of the only Alabama quarterbacks that I've seen recently that played with a team that like Alabama wasn't like, they weren't gods this year. Georgia ran the SEC, didn't lose a game, won the Natty. Like Alabama was good this year, but they weren't like, oh, this team is. It's not like you got Jerry Jeudy, Doug Ruggs, and fucking Jalen Waddle back there just like getting open. So I think Bryce Young, in my opinion, is like the safest pick. But I also think that Anthony Richardson has the highest ceiling. And I don't know what it is about Will Levis, but like I think he's trash.
Will Levis, yeah, yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that you think Bryce Young is the safest pick, because if you think about like his physically he is not necessarily the safest pick. Like he's never going to be any taller than he currently is at like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", whatever he actually is, and he's not even quite to 200 pounds. So he's got like everything when it comes to, like you said, cognition, just understanding the game of football. I think his pocket movement's really good as well, extending plays. But in terms of his size, that's going to be, an issue long term. We've seen, some shorter quarterbacks go near the top of the draft ever since, Russell Wilson got drafted in the third round and had a lot of success. Or, Drew Brees is fairly short as well as a pocket QB. But, Kyler got drafted pretty highly, being, the small sort of guy he is. But at least Kyler weighs more than Bryce Young. But I guess, what was kind of interesting what you said, too, was that Anthony Richardson tested really well, too. And he is projected right now to not necessarily go number 3, but he is not, he's not expected to go in the top 2 because he's plus 2,500 for the first and second picks. But when you get down to the number 3 pick, he is plus 350 to go. And I guess the overall favorite would be Tyree Wilson to go at the number 3 pick over Will Anderson. Will Anderson has fallen a little bit as well, which is kind of surprising. But Anthony Richardson, what's interesting to me is, you said Will Levis, you didn't really think that he, was great value or that he's very good. And I actually strongly agree. I think that
I didn't even think he was good in college. Like I bet I would.
He had one
went
good
to Kentucky,
year.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember I would I would always take Kentucky money line when they were playing like a team on the road, because like I knew they were good, but they would always be like plus 200, plus 300. And I was like, dude, this is great value. And like they got this like NFL caliber quarterback. I don't know what it was, but like every time I watched them, I was just like not very impressed. So, I mean, maybe that's just me being biased, but
here's what I have to say when it comes to the odds, right? So Will Levis is minus 120 right now, the favorite to go as the number 2 overall pick. I believe it's to the Texans, right? And that makes no sense to me. Anthony Richardson is plus 2,500 to go number 1 or number 2. What is better about Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson, right? Like Anthony Richardson.
Well, I mean, I would take
really
Davis
well.
Mills. I would take Davis Mills over Will Levis. Like Davis Mills is a better quarterback than him, in my opinion. Davis Mills wasn't even bad last year for that team. I mean, that team was fucking horrible. I mean, no one's gonna win with that roster, and they weren't in a position to win. And Davis Mills still, I mean, he did what he could with what he had, if that makes sense. Like.
I think
So, I don't
I
know.
think using the number 2 pick on a quarterback like Will Levis is a very Texans decision. You know what I mean? That's like a franchise
Textbook.
ruining sort of draft pick. And again, all I have to say is Anthony Richardson. They say Will Levis has the height. He's got the arm talent and all that sort of stuff. He's got the intangibles. He's a great leader. Anthony Richardson, by all accounts, apparently is a great leader. Everyone loves him. He's apparently super smart. The dude is 6'5", has barely played college football, is a top tier athlete, has a cannon arm. So I really don't understand how you could draft Will Levis over Anthony Richardson. And, I don't know if the Texans are going to Texans it or not. But Anthony Richardson, if he's there at number 2 and you're taking a QB, and you're not interested in CJ Stroud and Bryce Young's already off the board, I don't know how you can take Will Levis over Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I will fully agree with you on that. And kind of two other things to talk about real quick is like for one thing, I guess I'll say both of them and then just like you can respond to them. But the first thing is I'm happy the Bears traded the number one pick because I think they would have fucked that up if they had actually kept it. But I also don't think they actually got. I don't think their haul was like worth the number one pick, and that might be a hot take because DJ Moore is a great receiver. I think that's who they got from the Panthers.
Yeah.
But I don't. I don't know. I just like that trade to me wasn't like mind blowing. I was just like, I mean, okay, I guess that's a fair trade, but it's also the fucking Bears. And then the second thing is that I am loving all of this talk about like how much Jalen Carter is like not good and how like he has all these problems and stuff because I think he's gonna fall to the number 5 pick. And as a Seahawks fan, and I know you are too, obviously, like I want Jalen Carter. I don't want a quarterback. Like we don't like because the thing is Gino, like realistically, if you're gonna draft a quarterback, then you're gonna have to trade Gino and you just sign him to this contract. So you might as well let Gino play 1 year, see if he's actually worth his money. Get Jalen Carter, get a stud on defense. I mean, they have so many picks. It's like the only thing that's keeping them from being an elite team is just having the defense back to where it was before because the offense really was never the issue. Honestly, the problem was that Gino was pushing so hard. Like, and that Niners loss, like Gino was just pushing so hard to score because the defense couldn't get a stop. So it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like you got like if you're going to put pressure on the quarterback to just score every single possession, obviously there's going to be turnovers because they're trying to force stuff. So I hope they draft Jalen Carter at number 5.
Yeah, I think there's actually some insane like analysis paralysis going on where like all we've had is time since the college season has ended and it's allowed people to really overthink the entire draft process because, going into the end of the college season, everyone's like, oh yeah, definitely Bryce Young, number 1 overall, or the top 2 players off the board that are non-QBs are definitely Will Anderson and definitely Jalen Carter. And now it's switched a little bit. Jalen Carter has his own issue going on. But really, if I'm being honest, I think that is not going to affect where he goes in the draft all too much. And then Will Anderson, I always thought was, without a doubt, the top edge rusher. But now people are saying Tyree Wilson because of his overall size. But it's just surprising that, Will Anderson, who was like a surefire, top 3 pick, is starting to slip a little bit. So, like I said, I think it's just having way too much time on our hands and kind of just over analyzing situations. Like, I think the combine didn't really change our perspective all that much on, who Will Anderson or Jalen Carter are as players. We know they're fantastic. And they're from top tier, programs as well. So, yeah, I would love for one of those 2 guys to fall to the Seahawks. But Tyree Wilson might be that guy too. But it seems like Tyree Wilson is starting to move up the draft boards like late, right before the draft, because again, right now on the 23rd, he is favored to go number 3, which was not the case at the end of the college season.
I got to get a little bit more educated on like the full draft. Because like, I'll be honest with you, it's not like I don't know who these guys are, but like I couldn't go through like the whole first round or anything. Like I feel like I have a good idea for the top 5, top 10, but after that I don't have enough like background knowledge to like give any of my analysis on that. So that's kind of where I'm at with the draft. Do you got anything else to talk about with that?
Let's see. We can talk more about it next week because I think we're going to have a little bit of time. I think that's just a good thing to go over for now. But the only reason I know a ton about the draft is because I've been listening to nonstop draft podcasts, like just trying to figure out who the Seahawks are going to take. But we can move on to our next segment.
You want to let's go. Let's jump ship over to the NBA. So we got the playoffs going on right now. I guess I'll just I'm sure you guys are probably following it yourselves, but so the Lakers are up 2-1 over the Grizzlies. So I have the Celtics game on right now. I think the Celtics are winning right now. I honestly don't know, but I know they're up 2-1 in the series. And then the Bucks, the Heat are up 2-1 over the Bucks. Nuggets are up 3-0, and they're playing Game 4 right now. Suns are up 3-1. Am I forgetting anyone? Oh yeah, the Sixers swept. But I guess we can talk about just kind of like the series outlook.
Yeah, I think real quick before we get into like series outlook, I'll just mention real quick the games that happened today on the 23rd. So just today, the Knicks won 102-93 over the Cavs. The Celtics did end up winning over the Hawks 129-121. Now they have a 3-1 lead, and then the Warriors won by 1 point over the Kings to tie the series 2-2.
So I'll just start with the West. I'm just looking at the playoff bracket. I'll start with the West and then go to the East, and then I'll just go through each series individually, and then we'll kind of go talk about it. So like for the Nuggets Timberwolves series is kind of, I actually have a parlay for that tonight. I'll talk about it, I guess, in the podcast, but it's going to be happening. Like none of you guys will be able to see it. Like none of you guys will be able to place it because the game's already started. But I'll talk about it in a little bit. But I think this series is the Nuggets are obviously going to win. I don't know if they'll sweep. They might 4-1 them, but yeah, I don't think there's really a contest there with the T-Wolves. They are currently winning right now, actually. The T-Wolves are up 5-0. But I had the parlay I placed for today. I had a couple that already missed, but my last one was it's a 5-legger. Nuggets money line, Jamal Murray to make 2 threes or more, Nikola Jokic to have 8 assists or more, Michael Porter Jr. to score 15 points or more, and then Jamal to have 20 points or more. That was plus 289. I put 100 on it, so the payout would be I'd get 389 back in total if it hit. But yeah, I think the Nuggets got that series kind of in the bag. You have any thoughts on it?
It's just kind of a stinker of a series, I think. Yeah, the Nuggets are going to put them away probably today, sweep them 4-0. I don't really expect the Timberwolves to come here and win this game. Maybe the Nuggets will, take today off. It's a possibility, but I just think the Nuggets are just a much better team, and I think they're just going to finish the series today.
Yeah, I agree. And then we got Suns Clippers. This series is really weird because I think that if Kawhi and Paul George were actually playing basketball and actually on the court and actually able to produce for the team, I think that the Clippers would win this series. But Ty Lue literally was like, "Oh, this is what we've been saving Kawhi for the whole year," and then dude hasn't played the last 2 games and has no timetable for return. And the Clippers clearly are not going to win with Storm and Norman and Russell Westbrook as their number 2 option, number 1 and number 2. So I don't know. That series is just kind of stupid to me because I think the Clippers are actually the better team. The Suns are a fucking juggernaut. I mean, when you have 2 guys that can score 30 points a game on any given night, the Suns have the perfect recipe right now to win. So I think the Suns will win the series. I wish that Kawhi and Paul George had actually played, but that's not really how it is. So,
yeah, it's just disappointing. I think, I think this series could have been a lot more interesting because there's some bad blood between the Clippers and the Suns still from the last couple of seasons. I know Devin Booker and Paul George don't necessarily like each other, and Kawhi was playing really well in this series before he went out with injury. Norman Powell had a 40-point game, which is insane. And Russell Westbrook went from, being terrible in the first game offensively, but having some great defensive plays to kind of stepping up offensively and shouldering most of the offense, having 37 in the last game. And so it's unfortunate because, this would have been a really fun series to watch. 2 completely different teams in some ways, they are pretty superstar heavy, both the teams, but I'd say that the Clippers are a very deep team if everyone's healthy. And I actually probably would have favored the Clippers too if they were all healthy in the series. But the only concern I have is just the Suns going forward with their depth. Obviously, trading away Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson now, they're very top heavy. Kevin Durant is, just coming off of an ankle injury. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Torrey Craig, and then DeAndre Ayton. That's their starting 5, and then they don't really have a lot of depth, behind that. So I think they'll be fine for obviously this series. Although when we get more individually into the next game, I actually do think the Clippers have a chance to steal one more. But I worry about the Suns' ability to kind of maintain this sort of trajectory going throughout the rest of the playoffs because, like Chris Paul has shown that he's faded in previous playoff series or in previous years. And he's playing heavy minutes right now, along with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. So I see that being an issue going forward in the next couple of rounds.
That's a good point. That is a great point about CP3. Like everyone remembers that Rockets Warriors series, where honestly I think the Rockets should have beaten the KD fucking Warriors. And I mean, I don't need to go into the full, if you rewatch those games, like James Harden was getting tackled, like literally tackled, and there was just no fouls being called. And then CP3's hamstring gives out on him, and that's the end of that. So definitely that's the story of Chris Paul is those injuries. So I think that's a great point to talk about. So I guess the other series we got going on, I think this is the most competitive series in the first round, besides the Lakers Grizzlies, even though that we'll talk about that next. But the thing with like this Kings Warriors series is insane to me because like genuinely like I have no idea who's gonna win. Like I don't know who's gonna win each game. Like whoever is the home team is heavily favored, and like the Kings have been plus 200 or plus 230 or like plus 300 on both the road games. They honestly should have won the game today. Harrison Barnes missed like the game-winning shot, but I just think it's a close series. And the thing with the Warriors that's so weird this year is like they're like an anomaly on the road. Like they can't win on the road, but they can win at home. And so, I mean, Clay had a good point when he was saying, like, I don't see anyone beating us in a 7-game series. Well, yeah, Clay, if you got home court advantage for 4 out of the 7 games, I would agree with you. I think it's really hard to beat them. But the problem is when you're a 6 seed, you're not going to be the higher seed for the most part. So it's like, I think the Kings will win this series, if I'm being honest, which is kind of a hot take. But I see the Kings winning this series because I think that having the Warriors have to play 4 road games is inevitably going to be the downfall of them.
It's funny that you say it's a hot take considering the Kings are the 3 seed. It's just kind of funny because, yeah, like the Warriors obviously have that, prolific playoff history, and the Kings, obviously this is the first time they made the playoffs in forever. But I actually think differently. I actually think that now that the series is tied 2-2, I kind of think the Warriors might go in after regaining confidence, being down 2-0 in the series. I think they might go into Sacramento and steal a game from them. I'm not saying that they're going to win the series, but I could see the Warriors taking a 3-2 lead at least. Yeah.
I think it's a good point. I think this, like, if I'm the Kings, like, this next game is what determines who's going to win because to your point, if the Warriors come in and steal this game, I mean, game 6 with Golden State up 3-2 in Golden State is going to be a madhouse. I mean, like, that is a recipe for disaster. So if you want to avoid that, you got to win this next game. And I mean, that's pretty obvious, but that's just, if I was like a player or a coach or someone in that organization, I would have a sense of urgency right now and be like, guys, whatever, like, we almost pulled that out. And like, it's like with all these games, because it's a 7-game series, if you lose a game, it's like, it's not like everyone talks about splitting 1-1 on the road. Like, it's okay if we lose one and we win one. As long as we steal one on the road, then, we got to defend our home court. But, I mean, if I would have a strong sense of urgency if I were the Kings for this next game because I don't think you want to deal with an elimination game on the road as the 3 seed.
Yeah.
And then, do you have anything else to say about that?
I was just going to say one quick note is that, I was going to say that De'Aaron Fox has been just absolutely ridiculous when it comes to, clutch time. He was going to take that last shot in the game today, but he got double teamed, which honestly probably should have been expected, and he had to find Harrison Barnes for the wide open 3, and Barnes couldn't make his old team pay. But that was my last thing is that, De'Aaron Fox has been incredibly clutch. I think he won some award for like most clutch player of the season or something.
He was the clutch player of the year, which honestly, like, I didn't watch enough Kings games to know he hit that many buzzer beaters. But yeah, he was he had a great year this year. So I'm glad that he's becoming a superstar.
Yeah.
So next up, we got Lakers Grizzlies. I'm like the biggest LeBron fan ever, so I'm a little biased about this series, but I actually think that last game was an anomaly for the Grizzlies. Like, there's no reason why they should have been down 35-9 in that game. I mean, they were like I don't remember what the statistic was, but like they missed their first like 10 jump shots or something. And then like John Morant just was like fucking on one and scored like 20 straight points. And even though the game was over at that point, like still is not, you still would rather not give a guy like that confidence going into the next game because I mean it's just, it's just one of those, you don't want to give him confidence. So I think that this series, I could totally see the Grizzlies winning game 4, Grizzlies winning game 5, or excuse me, it would be game 4. I could totally see the Grizzlies winning game 4. I could totally see them taking a 3-2 lead, and then the Lakers are going to have to defend home court and play game 7 in Memphis. I see this series going to 7. If the Lakers get them in 5, it wouldn't be super surprising, but like my gut says this goes 7.
Yeah, it's funny that you prefaced this by saying that you're a huge LeBron fan, but as somebody that's not a huge LeBron fan and is kind of a LeBron hater, some might say, I actually think, surprisingly, that the Lakers are going to win this series, and I think that the Lakers are in the Grizzlies' heads, and I think the Grizzlies almost are in their own heads because they have just been so aggressively trash talking the Lakers for years. And LeBron's just sick of it. And LeBron is still, he's a top 5 player without a doubt. And he can be the best player in the league on any given night. And I actually think that, I think Dylan Brooks talking trash to LeBron before the game and then the Lakers coming out and taking a 35-9 lead at the end of the first quarter is not a coincidence. I think Dylan Brooks poked the bear, and I think LeBron is taking the series incredibly personally. He's obviously older now. He's not the same as he was a couple of years ago, but they're taking shots at LeBron, and I think LeBron wants to shut the Grizzlies up.
I genuinely cannot believe that because there's I don't think it was a playoff series, but there's when LeBron was in Cleveland, he played the Grizzlies with Dylan Brooks on the team, and Dylan Brooks was guarding him, and LeBron had 40 on his head and destroyed him. And when he said, "I wish I was guarding LeBron," or Miami or Cleveland LeBron, I'm like, dude, that guy was given the fucking best team of all. That dude literally beat the statistical best team of all time ever in the NBA Finals, and also led the entire team in every category. So I'm just I don't even know how to, that shit was just so outlandish to me. I cannot, no one would be, people would not be saying that about KD. People would not be saying that about Steph. If Steph came out and shot 2 for 20 or 2 for 10 or something, they would not be saying I wish I was playing prime Steph Curry. I wish I was playing Steph the year he broke the record. That's where I was just where, I don't understand why you're saying this, other than the fact that you just want LeBron to fucking end your life, which is fine by me, but it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, one more quick note is that I do appreciate what Dylan Brooks is doing because I think that the NBA can be boring to watch when everyone is best friends. So you need a heel sometimes, and I think that Dylan Brooks is a perfectly hateable player. And I wish there was more players like Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green in this league. Players that if they're on your team, you love them. And if they're on the other team, you hate them. So I kind of miss that in the modern NBA, but hopefully it's a trend that continues.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that point. All right. And then we got Bucks Heat. This series is a literal, this is a calculus equation to me. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen next. I have no, it's whoever the Bucks literally abused them in game 1. It was so bad that I was bro, I cannot believe the Heat even made the playoffs. And then here we are, the Heat being up 2-1 in the series. And I'm just I don't know what's happening. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's weird.
Yeah.
And my gut says the Bucks figured it out, but my gut also says that the Heat might just do this.
Yeah, I haven't watched all that much of this series. Just didn't seem like an interesting series to me, to be honest. But
I agree.
I know that Giannis is still dealing with a back injury, from my understanding. And I think while he's out, I think that it's a very 50-50 matchup without Giannis. If Giannis comes back, I think the Bucks win this series for sure. But with him out, the Bucks still have a lot of talent on this roster. But the Heat are a great defensive team. Just depends on how much Jimmy Butler can carry the Heat. I feel like to some extent, because Jimmy Butler without Giannis in the series is probably the best player on the floor.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then we got the Cavs-Knicks series. I think the Knicks just took a 3-1 lead today. I say the Knicks closed it. I think the Cavs will win game 5. Yeah, am I doing that math right? Yeah, game 5 at home. And then I think that the Knicks will win game 6 in MSG and take that series. I think the Knicks are kind of a sleeper team in the East, honestly. Julius Randle is kind of their X factor as much as Brunson's the stud. Like, if Randle is on and Brunson's always on, but if Randle's on, because he's had some like very shaky games, the Knicks are actually a good team. I think that they kind of have flown under the radar a lot this year, but they have figured out how to they had a lot of really close regular season games. They figure out how to pull out, and when you get to the playoffs, that's like kind of what's important. So I think they're poised to make a deeper run than people would expect.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch that many regular season Knicks games, but I will say that from the early season, I expected the Cavaliers to be a contender to potentially make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe the actual NBA Finals, but they have, without a doubt, underperformed and definitely disappointed me, being down 3-1 to the Knicks. But yeah, I think maybe I was just taking the Knicks a little bit too lightly. I just thought that the Cavs just looked so great, before the All-Star break, and since then, I don't know what it is about this team. Have you been watching the games closely? Is there anything identifiable for why the Cavs have been like not that great?
Well, so the funny thing is like I thought with the offense without Donovan Mitchell, when it was like mostly ran through, like it was like Sexton and it was it was like Sexton and Garland, and then Isaac Okoro was like also pretty good, and they had one other guy, I'm like blanking on his name, and then like Mobley had like an insanely good rookie. Like, if I'm being honest, it seems like all of their young guys who like really shined a lot before Mitchell got there have regressed. And since Mitchell got there, the offense is a little bit more stagnant because of how much of a ball dominant player Donovan Mitchell is. And that doesn't mean he's not a great player, but he shoots the ball a lot and he has the ball in his hands a lot. And I think sometimes it takes away from the flow of their offense. Like, I thought that they were very well built how they were. And then like adding, an all-star caliber player is never a bad thing. But at the same time, I don't necessarily know if their team is built really to like have, Donovan Mitchell doing what he's trying to do. Because the problem is like if he's going to take 30 shots a game and he's not making 50% of them, like, I mean, that's just already, defense. That's like who's going to get rebounds. Well, if they're not getting offensive rebounds, those are missed shots, those are possessions for their team. I mean, it's like I think that their young guys have regressed a little bit, and I think that Donovan Mitchell is streaky, and I think that's kind of their problem right now.
Yeah, just looking at the last box score here, Donovan finished 5 for 18 from the field, playing 42 minutes. So yeah, he had a pretty bad game, finishing with 11 points on 18 shots is pretty terrible. So yeah, I don't know what to expect going forward in the series, but I definitely think, like you said, the Knicks are probably going to end up winning this one.
That's his only Achilles heel as a player, is just kind of a shot chucker sometimes. And then we got the Sixers Nets series. This shit's already over. The Sixers swept them. It was a pretty bad series. It was not interesting basketball. The Nets were clearly outmatched the entire series. Embiid didn't even play Game 4, and they still won. The Nets almost stole Game 3, but like, I mean, you just knew the Sixers. Like, it's the same thing as the Nuggets Timberwolves series. It's like it's not like it doesn't need to be played because that's how things work. But we all know who's going to win. So yeah, that series is already over. Boston and Atlanta. is pretty interesting. I actually want to check. Okay, so the Celtics won, so they're up 3-1. I mean, I expect the Celtics to win this series. It's once again not a very interesting series. I don't think the Celtics are a very interesting team to watch, honestly. Like, I know that like Jason Tatum is great and Jaylen Brown is great and Marcus Smart is great. Like the Celtics have good players. I just think they're boring as shit to watch. And I also think that I think the Hawks play like a pretty brutal brand of basketball. I don't like how Trae Young plays. I don't really like his game that much. So yeah, that's just like I'm just not a huge fan of the series, and Boston should win.
Yeah, I think Dimitri, our friend of the show, would take exception to you calling the Celtics a really boring team. But I mean, you're not all that wrong. I mean, their sixth man has been really good. Malcolm Brogdon came in has chipped in pretty well for them. Obviously, the Hawks, they finished with a 41-41 record. They didn't really have high expectations, but I thought DeJounte Murray would add a little bit. I remember when they traded for DeJounte, and I thought that this Hawks team would be revitalized in some ways and have a new sort of offense, but that's not really the case. I think it's kind of, without having seen too many of their games, it feels like it's the same Hawks offense as last year, but then DeJounte just takes like a small percentage of plays away from Trae Young kind of doing literally everything.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think that DeJounte is. I thought that I don't know, like the Hawks were like one of those teams to me where I thought they were like one player away when they were, they made the Eastern Conference Finals and they lost to Miami. I thought they were kind of like one guy away when they got DeJounte. To your point, I thought that was like, all right, like Kevin Huerter was great, but now they have, two all-star caliber guards. Their issue was always they can't play defense, and DeJounte is kind of a lockdown defender. So it was like now they got someone that can guard the other team's best player. They got two all-star caliber guards. They still have, John Collins. They still got Capella. They still have like Onyeka Ngakwu, Big O, whatever his name is. I mean, like they had talent. I honestly thought they would be a little bit more effective, but I don't know what it really. I don't know what their problem really was, but
it makes you wonder a little bit because Kevin Huerter, is doing great for the Kings now, and obviously, he was a defensive liability, but I think we're seeing in Sacramento, Kevin Huerter, he's not just a spot up shooter, like he is a playmaker as well, and I don't think you really saw that with the Hawks because again, Trae Young is so ball dominant that Kevin Huerter didn't really get a chance to sort of make any plays himself, be a playmaker. He was just more of a spot up shooter for the Hawks. So while DeJounte is, he's definitely a better overall player, I think it wasn't as significant of an impact as the Hawks were expecting. That's for sure.
Okay. Okay. So for Tuesday, we got Hawks Celtics. It's like the Celtics are minus 600, so there's like absolutely no value in that whatsoever. But I also don't think that it's smart to take the Hawks plus 450. If anything, I'd probably lean towards Hawks plus 11 just because I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Well, the thing is, it's going to be in Boston, so maybe I should fade myself on that pick. I'm going to say I would take Celtics minus 11 because it's going to be like they're at home. They're trying to close the series out. Minus 600 does absolutely nothing for you money line, but I think minus 11 is like, it's not absurd. They could win by 15.
Yeah, one quick note. I would say that, the first two games in Boston, Celtics won by 13, and then they won by 13 the second game as well. So I think, minus 11. I think the Celtics could cover for sure. And I think that the Hawks, again, they know kind of like what's going to happen anyways. I think they're going to fall apart. So I think that's definitely a good bet for sure on the spread.
And then we got Clippers Suns. I mean, it really just depends on who's playing for the Clippers. I don't know. It doesn't seem like Paul George is even it doesn't seem like Paul George has a possibility of even coming back this series. And I don't know what Kawhi's deal is. The Clippers are plus 530. I can't say that that's not a crazy value play because I could see the Clippers stealing a game from them. And like plus 530 is absurd. Like that's a pretty
And,
heavy,
I'm
pretty heavy
assuming
underdog.
that's probably because they expect Kawhi to be out. But if he comes back, then, like you said, it is a really good value play, I think.
Well, and the other thing too is like they're plus 12 spread. So like if you don't want to like mess around with like they're not going to win. Okay, well I mean I think they'll cover 12 points. If I don't they haven't gotten blown out really at least that I can remember. I think they can cover 12.
Yeah, I'm looking at a news article update, and it says that there's significant swelling in Kawhi's knee, and that's what kept him out of Game 3. And everyone is saying it's very unfortunate, and it sounds like he will be out probably next game as well. But regardless, I do still think that plus 575 is good value. The spread is also 12, and it is in Phoenix, but I still think the Clippers could win it. Just like a big FU Russell Westbrook game is possible. Again, he's been playing better and better every game of the series. And again, I think the Clippers are a deep team, so even if they don't have Kawhi or Paul George, I think it's possible that they at least cover the spread. But yeah, like you said, plus 575, I think there is some value in that. It is a little bit risky though.
Yep, I agree. And then for the Knicks Cavs game on Wednesday. So yeah, now we're on Wednesday. Knicks Cavs Wednesday. I expect so the Knicks are plus 188. I would take Knicks money line if I'm being honest. Like I could totally see the Cavs winning this game as like a like I could see this being like a game 4 of the finals when the Cavs didn't get swept, where like against the Warriors they came out and scored like they broke the franchise record for like most points in a half, like just weren't missing a shot. I could totally see the Cavs just like having the game of their lives next game to like stay alive, and then the Knicks close it out in MSG. But I mean, I would still take Knicks money line for this next game. They won game 1 in Cleveland, so they've already won there once. I think that's pretty good value.
Yeah, I want to pick Cavs to win the game. But just based off of how the series has gone, I tend to think that the Knicks, especially if they're getting, you said they're like plus 188 to win?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think plus 188, I think you almost have to take Knicks. I think they're probably going to end up winning the game.
And then we got Warriors, Kings. The Warriors are plus 100, which is like, it's pretty good value for the Warriors, if I'm being honest. But it is the Warriors on the road. So for that reason, I might lean towards Sacramento at minus 118 to win the game. I don't think, like, it's not really, like, plus 100 and minus 118 doesn't really make that big of a difference when you're throwing it into parlays and stuff. And, I mean, even the payout for the straight bet itself is, like, not that absurd. I mean, it's, like, $10. It's, like, if you put down $100 on plus 100, you'd literally be getting 100 back. And if you put down 100 on minus 118, you'd get, like, 85 or something back. So like it's really not like it's not a big enough difference in the line to really like, oh, I'm taking this because it's giving me value. I think it's more just like who you think's gonna win. And I would probably lean towards the Kings, but who knows.
Yeah, I think this is really a toss up. I could see it definitely going either way. The teams are very similar. The games have been incredibly close the last couple of games. And I would say bet carefully.
For the Knights with Jet series, I think the Knights are going to pull it out. They're up 2-1 right now. It's a close series, but I expect them to win. And then for the Maple Leafs Lightning series, this is like I think this is the best series of the first round. I think it'll go to 7 games. Right now the Maple Leafs lead 2-1, but I think this one will go 7. And then Rangers Devils. The Devils pulled the last game out in OT, but I think the Rangers will take care of them and end up finishing them off in like 5 or 6. Kraken Avalanche is kind of a tough series. I'm a Kraken fan, but the Avs are definitely the better team. It seems like since Seattle won game 1 and was up 2-0 in game 2, the Avs have kind of dominated like since that point on. I hope the Kraken can tie it up on home ice next game and maybe push this out to 7. But so far, it seems like the Avs are the superior team. So sad to say, I could see the Avs pretty easily moving on. And then we got Oilers Kings. This series is crazy to me because I thought I thought the Oilers were going to make a cup run eventually. They're down 3-0 right now, and they're also down 2-1 in the series. So the Kings are realistically probably about to go up 3-1. I did not really expect that whatsoever. So that's kind of a surprise to me. And then you got Hurricanes Islanders. This series is so the Hurricanes lead at 3-1. I think the Islanders will steal one more game, but I think the Hurricanes will end up getting them in like 6. Bruins Panthers. Bruins leading the series 3-1. The Bruins were the best team in the NHL this year. They set the record for most regular season wins in history. Like they're like the Warriors in 2017. So I think the Bruins should win the Stanley Cup. They should definitely win the series. And then last but not least, we got Stars and Wild. This is a really good series too. I don't think either team really has the advantage. It's tied 2-2 right now. I could see Minnesota pulling it out, but I honestly wouldn't. I couldn't tell you with certainty who's going to win. I think kind of where I stand with the NHL is like Boston's going to win the cup. That's kind of how I feel. I don't know. Like I'm not an expert on it, so it's kind of hard for me to like go super into detail about it. But yeah, I say that's kind of my thought process on that. So I guess now we'll end the episode off with a few segments real quick. So the first one's going to be the 1 unit play of the day. So I guess if this is going to be uploaded for Tuesday, if I were to pick for my 1 unit play of the day on Tuesday, I'd probably stick with. I think I would go with Celtics -11 as my 1 unit play of the day for Tuesday. We kind of talked about it earlier. I think the Celtics will close the series out. They'll kill them. I don't know. I saw this video on Twitter of like DeJounte like beefing with the ref today after the game. So the Hawks are definitely a little rattled mentally. So I would stick with Celtics -11 for my 1 unit play of the day for Tuesday. You got any takes on that?
I mean, we already kind of talked about it in detail, but yeah, I think that's a pretty safe play considering that, at home, the Celtics have won by like a minimum of 13 points. So yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's a pretty good play.
I think if I was going to do, so for my parlay of the day, I'm going to I would do Celtics money line. I would do Celtics money line, Suns money line, and Hurricanes money line. So 2 NBA, 1 NHL. Celtics, Suns, Canes money line. I can plug that into my let me see if I can plug it into my FanDuel and tell you what the odds are on it. Yeah, it's pretty low. I mean, it's not even plus 100. So I mean, I feel like that's a pretty safe one. If you wanted more value on it, I would take Boston -11 and then Clippers plus whatever they're at, like plus spread, and then Canes money line, and that might make it. It'll probably make it like +3 or 400. I just saw something on Twitter that Paul George he's off of the injury report for next game, so Paul George might be coming back,
which would be a big boost for the Clippers offense, which would be another reason why their plus spread would be a smart bet. So I would say, yeah, Boston minus spread, Clippers plus spread, and then Canes money line. I think that's a really safe three-legger for Tuesday.
I didn't have a chance to look at any player props, so I'm gonna skip that for now. But you got anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. Since we don't have player props, I just want your take on making one of the top 10 picks in the draft, where someone's going to go. We already kind of talked about this, but right now Bryce Young's -2,000 to go number 1. Will Levis is -135 to go number 2 to the Texans. And then at number 3, Tyree Wilson and CJ Stroud are tied to go number 3 overall. I'm curious Let's just say for the number 1 overall pick, I think that's the safest one to go with because there's so many variables once you get past, the first couple of picks. For the number 1 overall pick in the draft, again, Bryce Young is minus 2,000. There's not a whole lot to gain there. But CJ Stroud was the number 1 guy when they traded for the pick. He's plus 1,000. Is there any value in that? Do you see that having any value?
I'm going to say no. And I only say that because I think I just don't see them taking him over Bryce Young, if I'm being honest. I guess it might be worth like maybe sprinkle $10 on it, but like I don't think that's like a super smart play. I think one thing though that would be, I wish you could bet on like players falling, because I would honestly bet on Will Levis being the last drafted quarterback out of all of them.
Out of like the main 4 kind of?
Yeah, like I would, if I could bet on Will Levis being the last quarterback taken out of like the main 4, not in the whole draft, but between CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson, I would take that bet. I think that the Texans will take, like, what are Richardson's odds, Anthony Richardson's odds for the second pick?
It's plus 2,800 for the second pick, but then the third pick, he is plus 350. There is another interesting prop here, though, and it's NFL draft just to be a top 5 pick. There are some players on here like Tyree Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Carter.
Is Jalen Carter on there?
The surprising thing is that Jalen Carter is on here, and so Tyree Wilson is minus 400 to be a top 5 pick. Anthony Richardson is minus 105 to be a top 5 pick. Jalen Carter has fallen down to plus 400 to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I would definitely put like $50 on Jalen Carter to be a top 5 pick, and I could totally see the Seahawks taking him.
Yeah, I think that's a steal of a bet right there for sure. At plus 380, I think that's pretty good value.
I would also sprinkle the Richardson plus 2,800 at number 2.
Okay.
Like I don't know. I just, maybe the Texans are super set on Will Levis, but
yeah, I think if the Texans are stupid, they get Will Levis, and yeah, it's minus 135. There's no value there. But I think if they make that big brain, galaxy brain, super smart play and get Anthony Richardson at number 2 pick and let him maybe even develop behind Davis Mills for a year at plus 2,800, yeah, just like putting like maybe $5 on it even. There could be some value in that, I think, at least. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, I'd agree with that. All right, well, I think that's all we got for this episode. Good first episode back. We'll upload this hopefully by Tuesday, and then we should get another one go. I think we might just start doing it bi-weekly instead of every single day. So I guess you guys will figure that out when we do the uploads. But if you guys have any bets that you guys like, or if you guys want to, engage any of the comments we made, just like leave a comment, hit us up. Like totally, like we want this channel to be engaging. We want to give advice because, we talk about this stuff all the time when we look at it. But we also want to hear from you guys because we don't like you guys. You guys can make your own informed decisions as well. So, I mean, any picks you guys like or anything you guys think is really like a good line, then please let us know, and we will definitely talk about it or like look into it.
Yeah. It was a fun first show, and look forward to it in the future.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.